Avengers came out. I just saw Medea's funeral. Now it's clear.
All right, I think it's time. We got a good hack. Is everybody showing noon?
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. This is exciting. So first, Facebook Live Commander's Call. Before we start, I want to thank Kim and Bobby for setting all of this up. This is fantastic. I want to thank Smack for coming up with the idea. No matter what you think about Smack, the guy's got some good ideas sometimes. All right. So the way this is going to work, you guys have already given me some questions online, but by no means is that the end all be all of the questions. You can ask questions during the entire time. All right, I've got some things I want to bring up with you guys. I'll go through some of the questions as well. I won't read them all off at once because that would be boring. But every once in a while we'll go back to the questions. All right. Before we start, does anybody have any thoughts, any good stories, any Bigfoot stomps that they want to share with the group before we just get into some information sharing? Who do we got new in the room? I'm gonna go from the back room. We got Igor Bykov. You want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, I'm Sergeant Bykov, coming here from Luke, did 6 years active duty and signed on before with you guys.
Right on.
Look forward to it.
Welcome, Igor. And what is your full name? Share that with us.
Igor Dmitrievich Bykov. It's like 23 characters.
All right. You guys are old. Bishop. Yep. What about you?
It's my second weekend. I've already introduced myself last month, but Staff Sergeant Macklin Bishop. I did 6 years of active duty as well. Came from McGuire, Power Air Traffic Control, and coming on trying to be 1C5 now.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I was talking to Bishop down at the Mug Out yesterday, and I guess he got offered an air traffic control job in Aspen, Colorado, which sounds beautiful. I don't know, Lloyd. The French are assholes. Yes. But yeah, he turned that down, right? Hoping for maybe Auburn or someplace a little less expensive than Aspen. So glad to have you, man. Alice, you've been around for a few months.
Years, sir?
So years?
I've been here for 1.5 years, sir.
Shut up.
So you did this get back to tech school, though?
That is 18 months. It is months. All right.
Delete that scene.
All right, and Bartolo's back. You guys need to share from the desert?
It's dusty.
It's
Yes.
yeah.
They're always changing.
Cool. So you're over at the AOC?
Yes.
All right.
Operational Coalition. And Jake is there now. So.
Allenton sort of ripped you out, but got put to another task.
A new task. Yeah.
Cool. So
yeah, we sent a lot of toys home, and then as soon as I land in Seattle, coming back, all those toys went right back again.
Gotcha.
Bombers and carriers.
Because of the
It's up to never change.
Okay. And then in the near future, Wolf is going to be home the 6th and 7th. We're going to send Baldwin out the door. Bondsguard's going to go out the door. Ayers is right now deployed, even though we see him every morning in his desert flight suit. I know, it's weird. And Kirby's going to go out the door to replace Baldwin in theater. And who else are we sending? Williams is over there with Puerto Rico. And Bissett is in theater right now. So we got a lot of people coming and going. We just got a request from the 116th. I don't know if SMAC sent that out yet, but a bunch of operators have been requested by the 116th to go over with them, so the Oregon Air National Guard. So that request for bodies will come out shortly. But as I say these things, it's like all we're thinking in our heads, to include myself, is Manny, more people going out the door. So just because these opportunities come along doesn't mean we need to take them, right? And just because Jason Davis sends something out to you guys, or I send something out to you guys that says, hey, here's a deployment opportunity, don't take that as we require you to find people to do this deployment opportunity. All right, it is mainly, here is an opportunity for you if your flight can handle it. Okay. Cool. Anything else for the group? Good of the order before I go into some topics I want to talk about.
And sorry, you have two on Facebook.
Two of them?
Captain Whitmer and Sergeant Doran.
That's fantastic.
And Doug Bruce.
And Smack isn't one of them?
Doesn't appear yet. Oh wait, Doug Bruce just joined too.
Oh, Doug! All right. I can always count on Fresh Bruce to be a part of something like this. All right, guys, so we've got a little bit of an organizational change. It's going to be transparent to most of you, but Petey Peterson, after years of harassing me, finally we have a JIC that is separate from APM. All right, so woohoo!
Just him.
So it makes sense, you know. They're going to be a small contingent, 10 to 12 bodies over in the JIC, and it will be run by Peterson and Brockman, or whoever the JICO and the watch officer at the time is. And they're still going to work with APM on some things. They created some business rules, very well done. And but they are their own separate entity now. They are not a flight because we felt like we already have one small flight in C2. We didn't want another small flight, so they are sections. So we still have 3 flights and then the JIC. All right, it's not the JIC section because the second C stands for cell, so that would be redundant. So they're the JIC. All right. Any questions about that? Any concerns? All right. Well done by Petey on his persistence. And I think that's the right way to do it. So thanks for following up on that. All right. Okay, so we talked about deployments just a few minutes ago. When we were at the Weapons System Council last week, which I can answer some questions about Weapons System Council. I'm going to talk about a few things that came out of there. But from NGB A3, Colonel Bartzak, and he's not the A3, he's A3Y, I think. General Gentili's the A3, A21 actually. So the reason they call it A21 is A2, 3, 6, and 10. When you add them all up, they're the A21. So they combined all those groups, right? But A3 is typically operations. A21 at Guard Bureau, that's ops. So that's General Gentili. Right below him is Colonel Bartzak. He briefed and he said that we do not have any non-vol deployments coming up anytime soon. Other than the ones I already talked about, right? So rated officers, we are safe. Any of the deployments that occur will be the volunteer opportunities that we send your way that you are fully allowed to say no to, all right? Any questions about deployments or anything like that? Okay, and that could also change overnight. So, you know, when they say don't expect it anytime soon, and then they hand you a bunch of non-vol deployments, they're like, the conditions have changed. Just like Tool was talking about how a whole bunch of toys come back, but then the political climate changes, a requirement occurs, and we send them right back over. All right, something really cool is happening in our community that I want to share with you today, and Hump Camel can explain it a lot better. He gave an incredibly persuasive and eloquent briefing at Weapons System Council, but it has to do with the future of our training and leveraging innovation and spark tanks. You know, you've heard the CSAF promoting spark tanks, you know, which is a play on Shark Tanks, but a little less aggressive. So spark tanks and think tanks and things like that. So Hump has an idea that if we are willing to, for a short duration, allocate resources, kind of like we did with Shoemaker down in DOX, to program a database for DOX for a little bit, right? If we take the right people and just say, you are working on this innovation, or you are in charge of innovating, coming up with ideas, right? You and your small team. We can get to a place where we think that we can cut training significantly by meeting our airmen where they're at, right? So a huge number of our airmen grew up playing video games, right? Well, I grew up playing video games. The original Nintendo, that was a thing, and I had one, and I loved it. Castlevania, you know what I'm talking about, right? All right. So grew up playing video games. Right now with pilots, what they're doing is they are going to the Air Force Academy. They're giving cadets copies of these very detailed and involved flight simulators. And they are putting them through a portion of UPT before they ever even graduate from the Air Force Academy. They're entering the Air Force with almost a pilot's license, or a pilot's license. Having the majority of it done on flight simulators that they can sit there on their PC in their dorm room and play. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, where the computer learns what you are doing well and what you aren't doing well, and where you're not doing well in something, it'll go back and it'll repeat parts of the program and it'll grade you and give you instant feedback. So what we want to do is potentially make an investment in people, get some seed money from some of these innovation grants and funds that are out there, and create a program where when you enter IQT, or you first show up at the unit, you're able to battle manage in a very intricate computer program, and you're able to learn everything that you need to know by playing a video game, right? And you just get to do that over and over and over at your pace. You don't have to wait for an ice, where you spend an hour in an ice, right? And then you debrief, and then you have to wait a whole nother 24, 48 hours to do it again. You can just keep doing it over and over and over again. So we're trying to do something like that. We feel like the short-term investment of people is worth the long-term savings that we're gonna find in training and getting people to the ops floor faster and things like that. So nothing's set in stone, but these are things we're thinking about. I'll make the announcement now. We're looking for the right people. We're putting together the right team. Joe Carey was first came to mind, and Joe's going to be part of that team, right? And there's going to be opportunities. There's also something called Agile Development, which Snack Brown's very familiar with. He went to a place called, it's not called Kessel Run, but it's the Kessel Run program, right? It's over in Boston, and what it is a group of programmers who, basically there's people old enough, and I think Mike, you might be the only one, maybe Jason, but back when we had TDF, NCS TDF on the operations floor after September 11th, Chad, there was a guy who would come through, and for the life of me, I can't remember his first name.
Anthony.
And he would show up, and he would go, "What do you want the system to do today?" And we would sit down with him and say, "Well, this needs to look like this, and I wish I could do this." And he would go, boop, 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 and then it would do it. And he would leave, and we'd have this capability, right? We can't do that with BCSF until now. Colonel Harm at Hanscom, the System Program Office, he is a big proponent of very short duration releases. So instead of waiting for quarters or 6 months or 12 months for a release to come out, he wants to get them out now, right? And he's a big fan of Agile Development and what they're doing at Kessel Run. Now, we're not going to get this Kessel Run concept where, and I never explained what Kessel Run was. Basically what Kessel Run is programmers and operators are sitting next to each other, like literally sitting next to each other. And the operators are saying, "Hey, I wanted to do this." And the programmers are going, "Boop, boop, boop." This is the international sign for a really smart person doing something on a computer. And it happens, right? So Colonel Harm's like, "We're not gonna get there right away with BCSF, but we sure are willing to take a look at this and see how close we can get," right? So the 520th out at Hill is an organization that does our programming for BCSF for us. And there is potential down the road for us to get a resource out of the 520th and send somebody there. There's a rumor going around that Joe Carey is moving to Hill Air Force Base. He's not. There's no job for him there yet, unless you're quitting and just moving there for no reason. But
At the expense of the Air Force.
But for now, he's going to be part of this innovation and agile development team that's going to work from home station, travel to Hill, travel to Hanscom, and try to get this agile development and Spark team going. All right, so we can bring the future faster is the ACC's commander's General Holmes's philosophy, right? He wants us to bring the future faster. So we're doing that in a multitude of ways, all right? So that was discussed at length at the Weapons System Council because we feel like that's one of the things that we can really get at here in the next couple of years. All right? Any questions about any of that? All right. Okay, I want to talk about mission essential tasks. Mission essential tasks are in our doc statement, which is our designed operational capability. It is what we are tasked to do as a unit, right? So mission essential tasks, there are 4 of them for us, and it is what the Air Force says we should do, right, as an organization. They have just been found on our doc statement and in a program called DRS, Defense Readiness Reporting System, which is how we report to Air Combat Command how ready we are to do things, and that's the only place they've been for years. We tried to get them written into Vol 3, and Air Combat Command said, no, that's a dumb idea. I was like, well, you're the stupid one. But that's beside the point. Our people, though, decided, no, we really need to take our METs and apply them to what we do every day, right? So I got a really encouraging briefing this morning by Colonel Fawcett and his team, and it was awesome on the direction they're going. So basically, you guys did all those tactical tasks, right? Everybody from flight, the flight commanders were a big part of this. They said, all right, here are the METs, the core mission essential tasks. What are the tactical tasks that you do to have air and space superiority? And then weapons went, oh, to have air and space superiority, I scramble on time, I pick the right base to scramble, I provide good GCI to get the fighters there, this, and this, right? And then we took those ideas, we took those tactical tasks, I say we like I had something to do with it. The team took those tactical tasks and they created assessment sheets out of them. Right? And so now what we can do is at the end of every CT event, or an event, even if it's not a CT ICE, right? An event where the majority or all of the players are CMR, we can sit down and we can debrief in a standardized manner using those assessment sheets. And then, just as importantly, we can capture that data using those assessment sheets. And it's a 0 through 4, just like a 206. Right, where 4 you did awesome, no mistakes, you did it like you were a pro. 1 you weren't so good, and 0 you didn't do it at all. Right, that it just wasn't part of the sim. So now we have quantifiable data instead of just this feelings about how we did stuff. Right? Did you pick the right base? Yeah, you absolutely picked the right base, and you scrambled them on time. So that's a firewall 4 across the board. Or you picked the right base, but you didn't scramble them on time, so that's a 2, right? And now all of a sudden we have this average metric over time about how our crews are doing. And then I can look at that data and I can say, all right, we need to bump up training in this area. Or we need to take a resource and apply it to this area, because we're finding the reason that this same problem keeps coming up is because a tool on the operations floor isn't useful. Maybe there's something wrong with ACES. So now I can go to NORAD and say, there's a problem with ACES, I've got the data to back it up. Because every time we ask for something, or every time we complain about something, even if we are right and everybody sees that we're right, they go, where's the data? You gotta prove it to me. Because I've gotta turn around and ask somebody for money. And they're gonna say, where's the data? Prove it to me. So we're doing this METS. The DOX team's doing a fantastic job. Shoemaker was brought in to create a database. I got to see it this morning. Completely user-friendly. You guys are gonna love it. And then the best part is, we're doing a little bit of agile development in-house. So if you don't like it, you can talk to this guy and he can fix it for you. You can go to him and say, I really wish it did this. And then Shoemaker can turn around. He's not a computer programmer, by the way. He's just doing this, which is awesome. And we hopefully will be able to send him to a bunch of classes so that he gets a whole bunch of computer programming stink on him. But he's able to figure this out for us, right? And do a quick turnaround on fixed actions. So anything about that?
Sir,
Yep.
any thought on having that be part of a daily metrics collect versus a CT?
Could be. This is all incremental. So we're starting with the CT. If we find utility in other places, absolutely. You know, and the ideas are gonna come from you guys. They don't come from me. I've got no good ideas. I don't know if you all noticed. But I have gotten to where I am by being willing to accept when other people have better ideas than me. And when other people have ideas and going, yes, let's do that. All right? I'm not afraid to do that. I don't need to be the smartest man in the room. If I ever find myself as the smartest man in the room, I am in the wrong room. I picked the wrong damn door, and I need to go find another room. Okay? I got that from General Horn. That's one of his things. But it's so true, right? You should never be the smartest person in the room, or you're hanging out with the wrong people. That's what I tell my daughter all the time. I'm like, the people you can be the best person in the world, but the people you hang out with, they're gonna shape you, okay? So surround yourself with people who are more intelligent than you, and you're gonna go for it. All right. What else about that? Okay, the chief, that was a bit of a shocker, huh? You know, we're all ready for the chief to retire, and then turns out, nope, he's gonna go be a command chief at the 194th. It's fantastic. He didn't think, you know, he confided in me because we've become really good friends over the years working together, and he's my chief, that he had applied. But he didn't think he had a chance. You know, that's chief being humble, the kind of guy he is. Well, it turns out he had a really good chance of getting it, and he did get it. So he's gonna be gone next week. He'll be in and out, you know, he's not gonna completely abandon us. He'll be available to tie up loose ends and things like that. But Chief Belleros is leaving, so he'll be gone next week. The bid for his job will come out. If at any point I put my hand in my pocket, please somebody yell at me. All right, the bid will come out next week, and it will go over the July drill. We're not drilling in July, but the state is, so it counts going over the July drill because that's one of the laws, the requirements that has to happen. And then we will have a board mid to end of July to pick the new chief, and we'll try to get that new chief in place as soon as possible. All right? Any questions, concerns about chief's departure and then the new chief coming in? We're gonna pick a good one for you guys, because you deserve that. We're gonna pick a chief who cares deeply about you. We're gonna pick a chief who is able to make tough decisions, but doesn't wield a hammer as his only tool, his or her only tool. We're gonna make sure that we pick somebody who is a leader, okay? So I promise you that, you will get a good chief. If that's the only thing I do during my tenure as commander, I promise you I will get you a good chief in the position, okay? That's not the only thing. I'm gonna do other things. All right, can they hear me okay out in Facebook land? Am I talking loud enough? What's Bruce say? What did Bruce say?
Sergeant Blevins says thank you for going live so far. Everybody else is just joining,
Oh,
just listening.
Rachel, she is so positive, isn't she? I love people like Rachel Blevins. Her attitude is infectious, right? She shows up to work every day, and she is like, I love it here. I love being here. Even when she's going through some tough times, she is like, this place is an incredible place to work. She said something to me the other day, and hopefully this wasn't in confidence, because I'm about to broadcast it over Facebook. But she said she wants her daughter to work at the Western Air Defense Sector. That's a pretty rousing endorsement of a place to work, right? When you want your kid to work at the place that you work at, right? Because we want the best for our kids. So clearly Rachel thinks this place is the best. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, professional associations. I'm gonna talk about that very quickly. I cannot name a particular professional association as the commander, but there are some really close to home that do a whole lot of good work for us. And I will name off a bunch of professional associations, the order of which does not mean I endorse one more than the other. But NGAW is a professional association that you can join, National Guard Association of Washington. That is our direct link to the National Guard Association of the United States, and also the Enlisted Air National Guard Association of the United States. All right, so that's how we have a connection with NGAW, and then they branch out to those other two organizations. So the NAUGUS conference is coming up. Typically officers attend that, but it's open to anyone. And anyone can become a member of NAUGUS. Just the way it's worked out is officers typically are members of NAUGUS, and enlisted are typically members of EANGUS. All right, so the NAUGUS conference is last week of August. There's also Military Officer Association, which you can join, great organization, and a whole bunch of others. AFA, they have a great local chapter, a lunch that you can go to each month to find out what AFA is doing for you. Why join an association? Let me tell you why. Because it's all about laws and money in this country, all right? If you want to get something done, if you want money, we're gonna talk about BAH in a little bit, and childcare and things like that. If we want to change policy, we have to go through the process. And the way we go through the process is you can't show up at the legislature wearing your uniform and demanding change, right? The Hatch Act prevents us from doing things like that in uniform. But what we can do is we become members of these professional associations, and then the professional association, as a lobbying group, goes to legislatures at the state level. If you have a free hunting license or fishing license in the state of Washington because you're military, that's NGAW working for you, all right? If you go and do firefighting duty because you're a DSG and you have some time and you get red card trained and go out and do that, the fact that you now get paid the same as firefighters instead of state active duty pay is NGAW working for you, all right? So they're one of many organizations, I have to say that, and I'm gladly say that. They're one of many organizations that do that for you. PD's like, oh, you're walking a tightrope. There's very strict laws about advocating for a single professional association over the other, so it is a touchy subject. But, so the numbers mean something in these associations. Because if you go to a congressman and you say, my organization wants you to do this, and they go, how many people are in your organization? And you say, yeah, about 20. They go, okay, thank you, I'll see you later. But if you say 50,000 strong, all of a sudden the congressman goes, oh, please tell me more. And make sure that all of those 50,000 know that I did this for you, right? And like it or hate it, love it or hate it, that is the way the system is. So that's what professional associations do for us, all right? Any questions about professional associations? Okay, join one, it's good. I don't care which one, but join one. All right, flight med issues. So I engaged with the 62nd or 627th Med Group, and Doc Ayers over there, we started a dialogue, and then she went on maternity leave. So we left it pretty open-ended. However, the good news is our Title 10 commander this morning got sick. Yeah. Okay, that's not the good news. And he said to me, hey, Tub, what time is sick call? And I said, oh, funny you should ask that, sir. There is no sick call. How does that make you feel? And he said, angry. All right, so I'm going to work with Colonel Lewis. We're going to address these issues with Flight Med so that when you get sick and you go over to Flight Med, they don't say, go ahead and call and make an appointment, and maybe you're lucky if you get in 5 days. All right, so I understand it's a problem, and we're working that, okay? More to follow. Any questions from Facebook Live World?
Not yet.
Okay, dang it. All right, 194th ASOG exchange, working on that for 1 Charlie 5s and 13 Bravos, short duration, long duration. Unfortunately, they were the ones that came to me about 1 Charlie 5s, and I've reached out to them a couple times now, and I'm having trouble making the connection. But we would like to do that, so the ASOG has 2 squadrons. One is your typical TAC-Ps and JTACs, right? And they're the ones that go out and eat snakes and shoot people and call bombs in on target. Then you got the ASOS, which is the other squadron, primarily does ASOS stuff, which is more of a command center that runs all those TAC-Ps and JTACs and calls in airstrikes and things like that, right? So there's typically like a CRC and an AWACS at the distant end, and then there's an ASOS a little closer to the fight that is calling in all the air support, and then you got the JTAC who's there embedded with the Army. All right, so we're probably looking at maybe getting 1 Charlie 5s and 13 Bravos the opportunity to go over to the ASOS piece and that middle echelon and work a little bit there. All right, if you have any questions about any of that, Matt White over here used to be working at one of those before he came to us, so he can answer any questions about what that looks like as far as duties go. But for a 13 Bravo to go over and do that, it's like 3 weeks of training, and then you're 13 Lima, is it a Lima?
We're rated 13 Bravo.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, 13 Limas are the ALOs that go out
Yes, sir.
closer to the fight. Okay. So that's what we're looking at doing there. So as soon as I can get confirmation that the 194th is jiggy with doing some sort of exchange, we'll negotiate the terms. And jiggy, I know what the kids are saying, right? All right, any questions about that? Okay, OCPs and flight duty uniform morale tabs. Schwartman is working on that, but per the reg, you can wear over here your tactical call sign. So we are ordering with unit funds Bigfoot that will be worn over here on your shoulder. Everybody in the group will get issued one, and it's just another way to instill some unit pride, right? A few years ago, our first sergeant at the time said lanyards must be black. You must have black lanyards. Well, we went back and looked in the reg, and it says no, lanyards must be conservative and of a dark color. So what we're also doing is getting some Bigfoot lanyards with a dark green, and me and a couple of my key officers will pony up some cash for that, so everybody can have Bigfoot lanyards. Another thing, trying to instill squadron and unit pride. All right, and then WAD's subdued patches, I believe, have been approved by heraldry, and now we can spend some unit funds to get subdued patches to wear on OCPs, and yeah, that's the case with that. For people who are waiting on OCPs, Sergeant Haynes has the down low on that. That's not right. Down low. She has the low down. That's a more tactical term. Is the low down. Yeah. So and it's getting closer. There will be OCPs issued very shortly. All right. I appreciate the patience and the wait, and it'll be provided to every airman free of charge. Not the officers, but that's neither here nor there. Standard issue for the OCPs. All right. Any questions about any of that?
I got one.
What's that?
So for the AJOX, we're getting the Spice Brown patches for the AJOX, even though it hasn't been approved Air Force wide. Would it be possible to have like a local, if you kind of bless that for them to wear it here?
I think we gotta look at the reg, because we can't, as local commanders, bless anything against the reg in violation of the reg, right? So if the reg says that these are the only patches you can wear, then we can't say otherwise, right? But if the reg leaves it open to interpretation, sure. So yeah, please send me a to-do to look into that, if you would.
Edie, there's a supplement that addresses joint patches.
Copy.
And sir, just to add on to the OCPs, talking with Sergeant Haynes this week, it sounds like mid-July is when the ordering can start happening, but could be until August till they actually get in.
Cool.
And it's just one uniform to start off with.
All right. So sounds like we'll be wearing OCPs very shortly, and we'll have Bigfoot patches and lanyards that say Bigfoot, and they've got a tiny little Bigfoot on them. It's really nice. Okay. And the person who's doing that is the new, soon to be the new DO, who is going to, what's the right word? Subvert? No, not subvert. He's going usurp. He's going to usurp Conan over here when he's done with his training, and they have an agreed upon date when they're going to make that handover. But he's been working on that lanyard idea. All right, Maverick Capristo and Shay Brockman. Maverick and Shay. That could be like a cop show from the 70s. Maverick and Shay. All right, they are going to be our professional development officer and deputy. All right, so Maverick's going to focus on the officer side of the house. Shay's going to focus on the enlisted side of the house, and they should never talk to each other, ever. talking to each other all the time, because the direction that I asked them to take yesterday was that we will have our independent meetings, but at least once a quarter, we'll all come together and have a joint professional development. And then the topics that we're talking about should complement one another, be similar, and complement one another. So on the same timeline, sort of as well. So we're all sort of learning the same concepts and things like that. All right? So any questions about professional development and who's going to be running that? Okay, we owe everybody a new professional development guide on the officer side, and we need to update the officer one, and then we are going to put out an enlisted one that's very similar to the officer one here very shortly. And it talks about career progression and where in your career at this point, when you're a staff sergeant, you're a tech sergeant, what schools you should be going to and what opportunities are available to you and things like that. So we owe you guys that. It's on the flight plan, and we are, actually I'll talk about the flight plan really quick. We do a flight plan review every Friday and then a big review once a quarter. And I realized today we are knocking some stuff out, guys. We're getting it done. The flight plan is not just a piece of paper that we created to check a box. It is a living document that is designed for the benefit of the organization and the benefit of you guys. All right, so the things in there are designed to improve mission execution, to train you better, to build the future, meaning you and the capability that we have as an organization. So we are moving things to the done column left and right. I'll talk about a few of those things here in just a little bit. I'll get to your questions in just a little bit. All right, well, here's one of them, crew restroom. So I sent out to the flight commanders. I don't know if it's trickled down to the flights yet, but the crew restroom is approved, 100% approved. It is definitely happening, and we are one credit card purchase away from having beds in those rooms. So dust off your full-size bedding and bring it in here shortly, because we're going to have beds in there. The direction I gave today was we were thinking about pods, you know, and researching pods and figuring out if there's a cost-effective solution for pods. And I said, you know what? We've waited long enough on this. I want to win, and I want to win today. So the direction I gave was we're buying beds for now. All right. Down the road, we will do some research. We'll look into pods and things like that. But for now, I want these crew restrooms to be operational, ready to go, so you guys can get sleep 2 hours at a time, not to exceed 4 hours total over the period of 12 hours. Okay.
Yes.
Any questions about the crew restrooms? So that's an example of one of the things we're knocking out from the flight plan. Knowledge management. Okay. I've heard people complain about trip reports. Why is there a WADSAL email with a trip report? Why do I gotta know that? And I tell you, you don't have to know that, but if you wanna know that, the data's available to you. And they're like, oh, just put it on the SharePoint. Like, nobody's gonna go to the SharePoint and read a trip report just cause. You have to actively delete that crap. And I like that, right? Now it's tough for DSG Zone, I get that, because you come in and you got 20,000 emails and your inbox used to be locked out. Well, that's not the case anymore, 100 gigabytes of emails, all right? And so you got 100 gigabytes of trip reports waiting for you when you come in, all right? But I really think it's important for everybody to know what everybody else is doing. There's an acronym, and I forget what it is, and General Janito from one of our Office of Professional Development shared it, but it was basically tell everybody everything twice, 2 times a week, or something like that. I don't know, but it's absolutely true. Tell everybody everything twice, all right? And then maybe it'll sink in with a portion of the population. And if you do it 2 times a week, tell everybody everything twice, then it really starts to sink in. Okay, so that's kind of the design behind the trip reports. Is you're going through your email, you open it up. We by design made it very short. It takes a moment to read, and you go, all right, somebody just went somewhere and we spent some money and they did this, and this is the next thing that they're going to do. Cool. All right. And maybe you forget about it, maybe you don't. But then later on, somebody goes, hey, there's this thing that we got to do, and you go, oh, wait a minute. I remember, somebody just went and did this, and they probably know a bunch about this, let me go talk to them. Okay, so that's why we're doing it. So knowledge management is critically important when we're doing things like this though, because everything becomes noise if we don't manage it properly, right? So I need somebody, and I don't care if it's an officer or an enlisted person, I don't care if you are an airman or a senior NCO, I just need somebody who is willing to create 4 to 5 pages that will impact daily operations in this sector to design our knowledge management plan. And basically what it means is, this is how we're gonna share information. This is how we're gonna email each other. When you want the commander to take action on something, you put the commander's name in the to line, and in the subject line you say for CC action, or for CC info. Or if you don't need the commander to do anything about it, put them in the CC line, or don't include them on the email at all. You know, so rules like that, that we need to get out to everybody, so when somebody goes, what's the right way to staff this? Or who needs to know about this? Or how can I get information to the commander and he actually takes action quickly? And you go, well, let me open my guide that somebody wrote, that Airman Shoemaker wrote, and take a look, and now I know. And we send it out. Expiration dates on emails, I think, will be our DSG's best friend, because if you put an expiration date on an email, if it's OBE after 2 weeks, overcome by events, it puts a line through it. Right? And then a DSG can come in, and there's probably a setting in Outlook that says get rid of all the expired emails, and they just all delete, right? And they know they just deleted everything that's old news. Okay, so you don't have to volunteer now, but if anybody's interested in doing that, please let me know, because I want to get that project started ASAP, because that's part of our flight plan. All right, Spitzer will help you as my exec, and he'll help you format it and put it all together. Okay. We're going to have a squadron unit training manager starting next week, probably. So we're going to have 2 unit training managers at squadron level and a group unit training manager. We're going to pick an officer to be the unit training manager. For a very long time, all the enlisted got all of the additional duties, and that's not the case anymore. All right, so the officers are going to share the burden of the additional duties, and this is one of them. So the training manager will be extremely responsive to squadron needs, because they'll be a part of our squadron. And if they're not responsive to our needs, then we can beat them about the head and the shoulders, not the face. Don't hit in the face. Don't hit anybody. I'm joking. This is all being recorded. And somebody's going to say, the commander said hit people. I did not say hit people. I said it, but I didn't mean it. All right. So that's coming along. All right. So if anybody wants to be the UTM, contact this fellow who is about to be usurped. All right, Malaysia. We were going to go to Malaysia in July. We had a team that was going to go. It's going to be Peterson, Brockman, Colonel Humphrey, and somebody from the SS, either Hughes or Roby. The Malaysians said we want to have, what we were going to do is have what we call airman to airman talks in July, and then they don't like to do any subject matter expert exchanges or SMEs. Unless it's outlined in the airman to airman talks. So what we were going to try to do was plan a SME to immediately follow the airman to airman talk and talk about that SME at the airman to airman talk. So then our people could just stay in place, and it was kind of tricky. And the Malaysians said, hold your horses. We're not quite ready to have a SME. Let's have the airman to airman talks, and then we will have the SME in August or September. So we actually have 2 opportunities for SMEs this year. That was the first one. That will happen in August or September. We have to do it before the end of the fiscal year, and then we're probably going to immediately or concurrently or just make a bigger SME, so add 4 more people to that trip. So for a total of 8 people, but we've got 2 of them scheduled. Then, next fiscal year, Colonel Camel is working with the Malaysians and Foreign Military Sales and the Embassy. They're buying radars, TPSY 77s or something similar, and we are working with them because we are their state partnership. PACAF, who is the lead on radar sighting and radar purchasing, said, hey, why don't we just use the Washington C2 radar experts? That makes a lot of sense. So we found some synergy there. So PACAF reached out to us, and so we're going to be able to send a team over to help them figure out the best place to put these radars for command and control purposes. Right? So that's what's happening with Malaysia. With Thailand, they're coming over in August. They're going to visit the sector, and we are going to pretend to be AOC experts. Because they really want to talk about the AOC. We're not going to pretend to be. We actually have AOC experts with us. For instance, Tool just talked about how he spent 3 months at the AOC. Allenton's at the AOC. Wolf's at the AOC. I've worked at an AOC. We've got a bunch of people who have AOC expertise, right? So the Thais want to come in and talk about what does an AOC look like, especially when we're talking about space and cyber integration. All right? So that's what's going on with our SPP. Any questions? Okay. Quarterly awards will be announced later on today. If you were at the morning briefing, you heard me talk about positional awards will also come out. And late ad, we're also going to have instructor awards that will come out later on today. Okay, so why all the awards, Colonel Bergeron? Well, let me tell you, because recognition of our people is one of the most important things that we can do, right? So this is my way of recognizing you guys, is these formal awards, right? And we have a very good formal award program. We're looking to expand that a little bit. But let me also talk to you about recognizing people just 'cause. When you walk by them in the hallway and you know they did something good, or you know that person's an expert in something or has a hand in something, and in a public setting you go, hey, so-and-so did this, isn't that cool? You know? Or if you need help with anything, Mui is an incredible hockey player. You didn't know that about Mui, did you? I didn't know that either. Well, I did, because they beat us every year. But, so it's like, we need to know each other better and know each other's strengths and weaknesses so we can do things like that. We need to know what each other's doing so we can do things like that. Hence the trip reports, right? We need to talk. We need to make sure that we are a family and we know what everybody is doing all the time, and we're telling everybody everything twice a week, so we can do things like that and publicly recognize each other. All right? Okay, so those are all my ad hoc notes. I'm going to open it up to questions really quick, and then I'll address the questions that were on Facebook. Any just spur of the moment questions? Yes.
When are we getting an FTU?
When the Air
Like a
Force,
date.
yeah, when the Air Force properly resources us for an FTU. That is an ongoing battle that we are struggling with, and it is probably not within the next couple of years. And the reason is the Air Force POM cycle just doesn't allow for things like that to happen quickly, right? You need to start planning for the POM, which is the way you get money in the Air Force. The Program Objective Memorandum is what it stands for. But essentially the POM is the way the Air Force asks the DoD for money, right? The DoD's allocated just a whole bunch in the budget, right? And then the DoD goes to each service and says, all right, service, what slice of the pie do you need? And if you get your thing in the POM, then you get money for your thing, all right?
But
So
that's a big bulky process, right?
it's an incredibly bulky, laborious bureaucratic process. So we are at the beginning stages of trying to convince everybody that we need to have an FTU. So we're talking to Guard Bureau, we're talking to Air Combat Command, we're trying to set the requirement for the FTU. So what is the FTU? Field Training Unit. So when somebody shows up here and needs to be trained as a AST, ASO, SD, AWO, our TT's gonna go to the FTU. I think, see, we're still working out those issues, right? Who goes to the FTU? But you go there and you do your IQT, at least your IQT, and then you come back to the unit, and over the course of a couple weeks, you do your MQT, your mission qualification training. Your initial qualification training is IQT. That teaches you the basics of what to do, the system, and then the MQT is you take all of that training and you apply it to very specific aspects of the mission, right? So it will be a few years before we get an FTU, but we're moving forward. The Weapons System Council, which is all of the BCCs plus Canada, well, they're a BCC too. We call it the 4+1. the 4 US BCCs and the CADs. So WADS, EADS, Hawaii, Alaska, and CADS. We're all working together as the Weapons System Council to get advocacy for that field training unit. All right, so I know I didn't give you a specific answer of when, but I think everybody understands it's probably quite a few years out later. Later, yes. Good. Anything else on those questions? Any ad hoc questions? Anything from Facebook Live land? Bruce, I know you got something to say. Okay.
Medina said it's pretty cool. You made a comment on there.
Bezekin?
Medina's.
Oh, cool. How many do we have on now?
12.
Wow! That's incredible. Awesome. I was gonna say, if Bissette was dialed in, that'd be awesome because she's over foreign land right now.
I did see at least one DSG. I saw Sergeant Mundell on there.
Oh, cool. All right. Okay, so what other ad hoc before I go to the pre-planned questions? Okay, Hampton is deathly afraid of Facebook. He feels like they're gonna steal all of his information and eventually his identity, and so he's not on Facebook. So he emailed me a question. So this is a new question to everybody. All right, so Captain Hampton says, the average days to mids dwell for APM crew members, meaning those who are actually available to be scheduled on crew versus those who are on leave, TDY, and training or on day staff, is 1.65 to 1. This is after day staff is filled in on 77 night shifts to try to ease the burden. What is being done to get the squadron closer to the theoretical goal of a 3-to-1 dwell, and when can we expect relief? Thank you for your question, Andrew. What is being done? We are recruiting, we are training, and for the love of all things holy, we are retaining, all right? Because people are leaving, and we'll address that issue here in a moment. But we have about 4 1 Charlie 5s. Is it already 1:30?
No.
Okay. Like we've got a large group of 1 Charlie 5s that are walking out the door for various reasons, each one of them. So that's tough to get to a 3-to-1 dwell. And to be fair, that's incredible. To be fair, the goal for APM specifically was 2-to-1, right? And that was addressed right from the get-go. It's like we want to get everybody to 3-to-1, but APM will only get to 2-to-1, and we know this because we don't have enough TTs. That's just, we'll never get past 2-to-1 right now with the amount of bodies that we have. I don't think Andy was here yet when I said that, so he gets a pass. So it is a theoretical goal of 3-to-1 for everybody, but APM 2-to-1 is what we're shooting for. So I think 1.65 to 1 is pretty good. We're close. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. 2-to-1 is the goal. So when we get there, I'll say it's good, but could be better. Okay, so what are we doing? All right, 3-to-1 it's a nirvana dwell. When we realize 3-to-1, that is when I know everything that we're doing has been effective. We're taking incremental steps to get to that 3-to-1. All right, the numbers will constantly be ebbing and flowing, and that's just the way this business is, right? People come in, people retire, people find other jobs, people get promoted, people move to different sections. We start an IQT MQT class. Canadians leave, Canadians come in. We train the Canadians. 2 years later, Canadians leave, Canadians come in. So I think you get my point, right? So we're very hopeful that ABM BMO Qual is going to fix this. And so has everybody in here at least heard of the concept of ABM BMO Qual? Give me a show of hands, ABM BMO Qual. Okay, half the room. All right, so what that is it's taking, for BMO is a term that we're using and is not fully accepted by the rest of the 1 Charlie 5 community, but right now it's what we're calling 1 Charlie 5, battle management operators, all right? And so ABM Qual and or BMO Qual, ABM Qual is definitely happening, BMO Qual is still being discussed, but it takes all of these different qualifications that we have and it kind of combines them, and you become an ABM when you leave Tyndall. And then you become a section lead, and then you become an MC. And a section lead and an MC have surveillance experience and weapons experience. and they can run a weapons team, and they can run a surveillance team, and they can, you know, do all of these different functions. All right, so when we start to give ourselves more flexibility by training people as generalists instead of what's the word I'm looking for? Anyone? Specialists? Thank you. That wasn't hard. Instead of specialists, we get a lot more manning flexibility, right? So when you're looking at your pool of ID techs and you go, man, I only got 7 ID techs. I've got to figure out how to spread these 7 ID techs all over the place. And then, oh, by the way, 3 of them are taking leave and 2 of them are TDY. So actually I have 2 ID techs. And one has to work nights and one has to work days, and then I've got to ask for additional help. All right, so when you have that situation, our dwell is going to suck. When you have the situation of, I got 20 BMOs that can all do ID functions and can all track, and I got 20 of them. Let me just plug and play and start figuring this out. Oh, 5 of them are going to be not available. I still got 15. Let me figure this out, right? It gives us a lot more flexibility. So that's one of the incremental steps is ABM BMO qual. We're working towards that. That is a couple years down the road though, so I understand it's not immediate relief. So some more immediate relief things that you might see, well, this one's actually further down the road too. Properly resourced FTU. If we get an FTU, we don't have that burden of having to send people over as instructors to IQT, MQT, because really it's the instructor bill that hurts us when we're doing those classes, right? It's not necessarily the student bill, because if we're doing it the legacy way, the students are the students, right? They're training all the time. Every once in a while we would pull them over to sit their primary duty, but not often. They were designated training. It's that instructor that we have to chop over for the entire 3-month period that is really hurting us, okay? So the FTO will help us with that, but again, that's a few years down the road. 1 Charlie 5 Tech School is being trimmed by 2 weeks, so that's gonna speed up the timeline. ABM, well, that actually wouldn't apply. If we sent somebody to ABM as lieutenants, the school is now trimmed down to 6.5 months, right? So they re-engineered the syllabus a little bit. So that trimming of the tech school is gonna help. I'm pursuing a TFI, Total Force Initiative through 1st Air Force and Air Combat Command, trying to get 10 active duty people assigned to each of the sectors. That's also another distant relief, all right? And then eventually we could get to a 100% functionally manned unit. We're not doing that right now. We're not doing that. I have no plans to do that, right? But eventually we could get there. And what will that do? It'll mean that everybody is no longer assigned to a flight. You are assigned to something else in the organization. You're working at the group, you're working in the various staff offices, you're doing things like that, and you will be deployed to the floor. So now we have a pool of 176 bodies that we can man the mission with. And every once in a while, well, not every once in a while, often you'll go to the floor and you'll do your mission. You'll do your alert mission, you'll work CT, you'll work whatever the task of the day is, right? So we could get there eventually, and that would provide us some relief. But I don't think that we're ready for that right now, all right? I think that's way off in the distance. All right, and then the other thing that's an immediate fix is some of the TDYs, right? So just because we present an opportunity does not mean you have to take that opportunity. If I go to APM and APM is at a 1.65 dwell and I ask for a volunteer to go do testing, you do not have to provide me a volunteer to go do testing, okay? You can turn to me and say, my people are absolutely dying right now. I'm trying to get to a 2 to 1 dwell. I cannot support this TDY. And I will look at you and I will say, that is a fantastic decision. Thank you. All right? So that's how we're gonna fix this problem, is we prioritize, okay? Our mission comes first. If we're killing our people by trying to do too much, then we're screwing it up. All right, so we need to prioritize. All right, any questions about any of that? Okay, so we'll get to a 2 to 1 dwell, we will. Remember the climate survey? And I said, somebody in the climate survey said, Colonel Bergen can only stand up in front of us and tell us it's gonna get better for so long before we absolutely lose our shit. So I'm doing it again, but I truly believe it.
and I'm in the driver's seat, and I want you to know, we're gonna get to a 2-to-1, okay? For APM. And then hopefully eventually we'll get to a 3-to-1 for APM, when all of this other great stuff is realized down the road. Okay, this one's a quick one. Major Davis, he asked, officers seem to have at least 3 options for staff tours on top of what's offered for NGB stat that are ADS endorsed. What options do we have for 1 Charlie 5s, and what options would you like to see come open in the future? So Chief Lawson answered a portion of this question, and he said that there are 3 main areas. Yeah, if anybody needs to get up and go to the bathroom or whatever, stretch your legs, please do. Okay, so 3 main areas, First Air Force, NGB, and AETC, and go be an instructor somewhere. He'd like to see more force development opportunities at Headquarters Air Force, Pentagon, and state levels. Half A3 is open to bringing in senior NCOs to assist with their duties, responsibilities, but it would need to be unit funded, which means we have to take it out of Hyde, right? It's not a stat tour or anything like that where we can get backfill. We also have to pay the bill to get them there. In addition, we need to get more exposed to the mission sets within the state, i.e. the ASOG or the ASOS. These opportunities can be short in duration. So I've already told you we're working on that stuff as well, right? So I listed out some specific ideas. The 520th at Hill is an opportunity that we're trying to secure and get a resource behind that. So as soon as that resource comes available, I think the enterprise has looked at WADS and said, you guys are gonna provide the body to go to Hill for a tour of 2 to 3 years, okay? NGB A3, Senior Master Sergeant Brzeski is in that job right now, but that's the A21, the ops side of the NGB. He's been there for about a year. That's a stat tour. We would get backfill for that. So if there's a Master Sergeant who is eligible for senior in a year and a half or so, that might be a good opportunity for them to go and take Senior Master Sergeant Brzeski's job. NGB A5, maybe Noyes. She is going to move on here probably shortly. And that job is right now, they're probably going to look for a WADS person. Noyes can advocate for us. NGB A5 is going to be requirements, C2 requirements for all of the Guard. All right, so that's a great job for somebody to go do. That's a stat tour. That'll be opening up very shortly for a Master Sergeant. I think it's even open to a Tech Sergeant because she went there as a Tech and then got promoted to Master, if I remember right. Or did she get promoted to Master? She was an alternate here. Okay, gotcha. So definitely a Master, but they might take a Tech. All right, and then ACC A3I at Langley Air Force Base, Air Combat Command, A3 Operations. CI is the command and control side of the house. All right, so they're looking for a senior NCO. We don't have a resource behind that one, so if we sent somebody, it would be completely out of Hyde, and that's not ideal. So we're trying to see if Air Force will provide some days and dollars for that. All right, I feel like I'm losing some people. And is everybody all right? This is good info? Okay. If you got to get up and go, you can. I'll just keep talking until we get through these questions, okay? All right, Sergeant Talley, in your last commander's all call, you mentioned we would like to group together projects on the ops floor reconfiguration to minimize impact. Are we considering the future ABM, BMO qualifications and how those flexible positions will drive a need for a different crew construct? Is the ops floor reconfiguration going to be built in preparation for this change, or do you expect as CC we will be doing another reconfig around 22-23 timeframe? So the reconfig that's happening shortly is only going to affect BMA2, and it is a very small reconfig to try to optimize that section. Right? There's a Tiger team that's been put together, that is being put together, and they need flight members. So please volunteer for that. Talk to Snack Brown, the guy in the referee shirt, to volunteer for that. But that is a strategic look at our operations floor. And that strategic look at our operations floor probably will be executed in the 21, 22, 23 timeframe, depends on money, depends on where we're at with some other projects. But it will most definitely take in account ABM, BMO qual. That's one of the primary reasons we're doing it. All right, so hopefully that answers Sergeant Talley's question. All right, what will that look like? I think the Tiger team will figure that out, but I envision instead of these big sections, right, I envision smaller cells of section leads, air battle managers, BMO operators, and each cell is given like an area of operations or a specific task, right? So we'll set our operations floor up into cells with a mission commander somewhere centrally located, all right? But that's all TBD. All right, Sergeant Carey, I'm surprised I didn't know that he could read or write, but he says, there's been some talk lately about ABMS. I think there's some misunderstanding about what that is. Can you plain language it for us? Also, as the BCCs are closer to becoming a weapon system, does this somehow complement our transition into an ABMS future? Not sure if this is possible at the unclass level. It most definitely is possible at the unclass level. ABMS is Advanced Battle Management System, and it is expected to be fully operationally capable in 2035. That seems like a long time from now, right? But when you're talking about a complete revolutionization of how we do tactical command and control and operational command and control, 2035 is right around the corner. So right now it's being designed by somebody called The Architect. I actually saw his actual name for the first time the other day, but his title is The Architect. And he's figuring all of this out, all right? It's colloquially described as a system of systems to replace the theater air control system. So the TACS, as you guys probably learned at Keesler and then at Tyndall as well, the TACS is the AOC, E3, E8, the CRC, TACPs, JTACs, ASOSs, ASOGs, all of that together, working together to command and control the battle, right? So it is a system of systems to replace the TACS. Right now they're looking at 2 courses of action, a ground-based node and also an airborne node. And the architect will probably, if he's any good at what he does, will come up with a combination of both, where there is a ground-based node and then manned or unmanned airborne nodes that are out there somewhere. Okay, we should expect a combination of both COAs. We should have more essay this summer. There's something called an analysis of alternatives that ACC is doing, and they will look at those COAs, work with the architect, and figure out exactly what that system of systems look like. We are part of ABMS and the consideration for it. The second part of Joe's question about being designated a weapon system, we're probably actually not going to be designated as a weapon system. Our SMEs at ACC, Pete Hickman, CJ Johnson, they've been working on this designation of us as a weapon system and has come to the realization that it actually would buy us nothing and that we are being treated as a weapon system right now, and any effort expended on just being, stomping our foot and saying we need to be a weapon system, it's wasted energy. So we'll be treated like a weapon system, probably not going to be called a weapon system, but that doesn't limit us from being included in the ABMS future. All right, so do you feel smarter on ABMS?
So what happens to the Weapon System Council now?
It is sort of looks like a Weapon System Council. We just have to change the name. Yeah, no, it would be called a Weapon System Council. All right, it's semantics at this point, being designated as a weapon. There's a document that outlines all of the weapon systems, and we are included in that document, but we're not designated as a weapon system. All right. Okay, Captain Vogel asks, awards are a nice way to reward our people, as well as help us get noticed outside of WADS. Our instructors and students put a great deal of time and effort into IQT and out-of-cycle training. Could we consider creating an Instructor of the Quarter Award and possibly an IQT Distinguished Graduate Award to recognize the hard work these airmen put in to train and become expert operators? Absolutely, we can do both, and we definitely will. All right, so I mentioned this morning, we'll do those positional awards. We're going to do instructor awards. We've had top instructor for each IQT, MQT class. Bird has won it every time. So every time Bird wins it, we're always like, yay. So we didn't make any big fanfare out of it. So now that Bird's leaving, he doesn't have a monopoly on that award anymore. So we will have top instructors and things like that. All right. So give me a list of awards that you want to see. It's as easy as that, right? And we'll make it happen. If you think some task or something is noteworthy enough to have a squadron-wide award, then bring me a damn list, right? Don't say, Commander, we need more awards, and then expect me to come up with the list. That's what I need you to do, okay? So, bring me a list. Okay, he also asks, he goes on, Also, in terms of making work fun and prepping for the squadron eval, keeping the sword sharp, we could do a turkey shoot-like competition and pit green crew against blue for bragging rights. Any takers? All right, so we used to have a thing called Top Scope. We still do have a thing called Top Scope. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when we did Top Scope, it was this NORAD wide competition. You'd have a WADS competition, and then, well, at that time it's NWADS. You'd have an NWADS competition, and the winner of the NWADS competition would go to a First Air Force level competition, and then the First Air, well, that was before First Air Force, a NORAD competition, and then finally you would have this NORAD Top Scope. Right? NORAD did away with the funding for that, lost interest in any of that. We brought Top Scope back a few years ago for internal, and it was good, but then other priorities took over, right? And we're sprinting on a bunch of other things. So my answer to Nick Vogel is absolutely yes, let's see where it falls in the priority list. And if, after we do everything else that we have to do, we have room for Top Scope, let's do it. And if somebody wants to volunteer to lead that up, let's do it, all right? So it takes effort from all of us, right? We're talking about smashing the Pareto principle so that 20% of the people aren't doing 80% of the work. So if you feel like you haven't done something in a while, maybe you're the Top Scope guy. It's a DOK program, so talk to DOK and see if we want to roll that back out, all right? I'm talking to you, Nick. Okay, Sergeant Sear. He says, one of your waypoints in the ADS flight plan is to fully develop and execute 225th ADG XP realignment plan. Can you elaborate on what that will look like, manning responsibilities, etc., and why, how this change will benefit the organization? Is this an initiative or has this been approved? So, what we are first going to do, and I came to this realization tomorrow, that the best, or yesterday, that the best way to do this is we're just going to do it. We're gonna in the very near future have a ADS XPR. We're going to take DOM, we're going to take DOX, and we're going to smash them together. Not physically, because they're actually still going to have two separate office spaces. We're going to smash them together. We're going to put Skip Fawcett in charge of it, and they're going to be the ADS XPR. And then, after we've been operating for that for a little while, I'm going to take this wonderful package that we call the XPR shop, which is plans, programs, and requirements, and I am going to say, Colonel Humphrey, would you like this at the group level? And my guess is, based on conversations that I've had with him, he will say, I would love that at the group level. Let's move that on up, right? And now that gives us opportunities to fleet people up to the group, get some experience doing group level activities, interacting directly with Colonel Humphrey and his staff, and then come back to the squadron with all sorts of group level experience. It'll allow us to streamline the ADS to the trifecta of weapons and tactics, training, and stand eval, plus intel, current ops, and all the other offices that help us schedule, right, and operations, okay? And we don't worry about requirements and then exercises anymore. Good on the exercises, guys. Sometimes I forget that exercises is part of the ADS because they're so autonomous, right? They have their charge, they work their exercises, they do their stuff. So it makes sense for them to go to the group. They're doing group level stuff already, and it makes sense. All right. So what's the benefit, all right, of doing this? It's just more change. It's just Colonel Bergen coming up with more change to make our lives suck. It's not. And here's what it is. All right. It's gonna what I just talked about, providing that breadth of exposure to group level activities and programs and plans and senior leadership, right? It's also going to develop concepts for modernization and sustainment over X amount of dollars in Air Force resources to support air defense taskings. It's going to manage upgrades totaling approximately X amount of dollars. And I say X amount of dollars because it's always changing, right? The number of dollars we're dealing with here. To the Battle Control Center, including sensors, communications, computers, simulators, combat ID, operations facilities. We're going to develop the BCC enhanced integrated priority list based on current projected missions and threats. So I'm not going to read this whole list because it's really boring. But the theme is these higher level stuff, these things that a tactical squadron should not be spending their time on, will be done at the group level. And it'll be done holistically with the support squadron. So when we say right now that we want all new BAMs up on the operations floor and a video matrix, right? We have to go and ask the support squadron, the support squadron has to agree to do that, and then we gotta go to the group and get approval from the group, and then maybe we'll get our video matrix done, maybe, down the road. Well, if at the group level, there's an SS component, which right now SS is not agreeing to be a part of any sort of XPR shop, but they might in the future. If there's a support squadron component at the group level mixed in with operators, they're doing all this collaboration of what a video matrix looks like, what the best way to operate is, and then the group commander just goes, yeah, do that. And the group goes down to the ADS and the SS and says, this is the timeline, these are the resources, execute, right? And we get much more, in a much more streamlined, holistic, and integrated fashion, the resources that we need at the right time. Okay, so what's the manning look like? It's gonna be run by the Canadian deck commander, which puts him a commander at the right level, if it eventually gets to the group, right? So Skip Fawcett working for me makes no sense in my mind, and it doesn't make sense in his mind, yet he's a professional, so he does it, right? But he is a commander. He needs to be at the group level, level with me and the SS commander, all right? There'll be 105 and one E7, E8 in charge of requirements. There'll be 105, E7, E8 in charges of exercises and plans, and they will have a team of NCOs and junior officers below them, each one. What's the manpower bill? Right now it's nothing, because we're taking DOX and DOM, and we're just using them, all right? There's also gonna be maybe pieces of IG in there. There also may be the SSO, Colonel Kennedy, and his replacement, Major Notensky. They may be at the group level plans and requirements shop. Anytime a document comes through and it's a 200-page document and First Air Force says, you have 3 days to review this, go. That will go to the group plans and requirements shop for them to review it and come up with a holistic plan to make sure our interests are represented. All right? Okay, any questions about XP and what the vision is behind that? All right, so we're gonna go, as soon as I get some bandwidth, maybe middle of the summer, we'll establish that ADS XPR, and we'll go with that. Right now, it's just kind of a paperwork shuffle, is what it's gonna be. We're gonna do the office move anyway to that big room behind the trophy case for requirements. DOX was gonna go out to the, out to Purgatory anyway. So, yeah, right now it's a paperwork thing, but eventually it'll be at the group, and Colonel Humphrey likes this idea, so it's gonna be a thing. All right.
CPI.
What's up?
CPI.
Yeah, possibly.
I think that's why you asked the question.
If we can get a CPI office in there. The CPI, again, comes out high though, but we did just get approved a 04 IG AGR position. That's being given to us by Guard Bureau. So, you may not have known that, I don't know, but that's good news. So, we're getting, go ahead.
What is CPR?
Continuous process improvement. So lean stuff, having a, probably two, at least one, hopefully two people in the organization constantly evaluating our metrics that we're coming up with and looking at how we can improve things in the unit. So an office designated to that. That innovation spark team, probably at the group level. So, but where do these bodies come from? That's the battle I'm constantly fighting, is we've got these great ideas, these great things we wanna do, where does it come from? And so that's what I get paid to do, is try to figure that out, okay? Okay, we're going long, guys, but I'm almost at the end of these questions. Sergeant Colt asked about, over the last 2 years, the ADS has seen a massive amount of turnover in manning. Some of this is due to opportunities of professional development elsewhere, and some of it was due to the feeling of low morale. We all know some of the morale issues have to do with the pace that the Air Force is changing and the pace that the air defense mission is changing, and we as a squadron having to try and catch up. What do you see as the best way to create a work environment that promotes leading the way when it comes to the air defense mission, while also creating a workplace environment that takes people into account and the effect morale has on productivity and retention? Great question. However, first I gotta address the premise that all of the departures were based on either professional development or low morale. Was morale low? I think so. I think it's getting better. How many people do I think left because of low morale? I don't think many did. and here's why. That may have been a factor in why they left, but there were a bunch of other reasons why they left, okay, and went and pursued jobs. If somebody is invested in a unit and in their neighborhoods and their families and things like that, and low morale comes along because something happens in the organization, they don't just get up and leave, okay? So I don't think anybody solely left because of low morale. I do think low morale was a problem, but I think the departures that we dealt with, if anybody can point to me, oh, there you are. If anybody can point to me and say, so-and-so left because they were unhappy in this organization, I wanna know that, because I think that's important information for the commander to know. What I can do, though, is point to the officers and a whole bunch of the enlisted that left and say, so-and-so left for this reason, and it had nothing to do with morale. You know, Tony Braun has itchy feet, and Tony Braun, but there's a company out there missing their CEO because Tony Braun is in the Air Force, right? He needed to go on and do bigger things, and he's actually going to be General Lingel's executive, the chief of the National Guard Bureau. He's going to be his exec. All right, so Casey Robbins wanted some broadening experience. He plans on coming back. I just talked to him the other day. He's turning around coming back. Rocky Rhodes, same deal. He's coming back. He just wanted to go do something different. All right. Maybe Noyes wanted to do something different. Had nothing to do with low morale. However, I understand people don't come to the commander and say, my morale is low and that's why I'm leaving. They talk to you guys, right? But I need to know specifics. I can't just hear morale is low and that's why people are leaving. Thank you for bringing up I'm not knocking on you for bringing up the question. But what I'm asking you guys to do is, if somebody's unhappy and they're leaving, please tell me that, all right? Because I don't necessarily always get that information, okay? But let's talk about what we're gonna do. I feel like this is a normal churn, what we're going through. It sucks. We'll train people and then people will leave, and we'll train people and people will leave. But we've always done that. We really have. Right now it's just kind of amplified because of all the change that happened all at the same time. And it's easy to point to functional manning and say that's the problem. And it's never a single problem. It's always a bunch of different problems that create a morale problem, okay? So, what am I gonna do to fix it? Communication. What we're doing right now. Sitting down with you guys individually in my office and having a chat. Stopping you in the hallway and letting you know that I see what you're doing and I love what you're doing, all right? Commander's calls, officer calls. I plan to go to every, chief has his rank meetings. I'm sure whoever replaces him will have the same thing, right? Where he brings in all the masters, all the techs, all the staffs. He promised me I would get 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning to talk to everybody. And I'm gonna take advantage of that. The top 3 meetings at the junior E meetings, at the booster club meetings. My job is to talk, and boy, do I do it well. Here we are. How long have we been going here? Almost an hour and a half. All right, so I'm gonna communicate everything that we're doing in this organization from the top down. All right, I also feel it's my job to set the tone in this organization, and the tone I'm going to set is one of positivity, acknowledge our success, right? Not dwell on the negatives. You're not gonna find me hiding in my office, okay? And this is no indictment of any previous commander, please. Don't take it that way. I'm just talking about what I won't do. You're not gonna find me hiding in my office. You're gonna find me having fun with a smile on my face. On the days I don't have a smile on my face, that's probably because I'm just really tired because I didn't sleep well, because I ate too much pizza. All right, and public recognition, all right? That is also, people, all right, I look at the Marine Corps, and I say to myself, it cannot be fun to be a Marine. That's gotta suck, especially in combat, right? But they do it, and they do it in such a gung-ho and spirited manner. How do they do it? It's because they are damn proud of being a Marine, and they've got a leader, whether it's a gunny or whether it's an officer, but they've got a leader who says, we're gonna charge that hill and we're gonna get shot at all damn day, and we're gonna love it. And at the end of the day, we're gonna be sitting on top of that hill, right? And that's the atmosphere I'm gonna create in this organization, okay? One where we have just inspirational leadership even when things suck, okay? We're gonna be an organization that 20-mile marches, meaning even on the bad days, we don't stop and take cover and stop marching, okay? We march for 20 miles every day because we have a goal to get to. What is that goal? It's in our flight plan. It's organizational excellence. It's individual excellence. It's accomplishing the mission. It's when First Air Force says, who's the best damn unit at the end of the year that I can give this award to? They get sick and tired of giving it to the Western Air Defense Sector, all right, and the 225th Air Defense Squadron. That's the type of organization I want to have. So that's how we're going to deal with this, all right? Captain Capristo asks, is there a mechanism or process to get the Air Force to assess Pierce, Thurston, and possibly King counties for a cost of living adjustment? For example, the housing market here is approximately 1.5 to 2 times more expensive than my previous assignment, and yet BAH is only $150 more, and it went down by $80 1 January 19. Additionally, child care is $325 to $350 per week off base, which brings me to my second question. First, I will address the first question. Thank you for asking this question, because it caused me to do a lot of research into how BAH rates are set. All right? You're not going to like my answer on this one. And this is where the legislation comes into play. Right? So BAH is set on an area of 5 miles around the base that you are assigned to. It has nothing to do with where you choose to live. So when we talk about recalculating for counties, they just don't do that. They look at the area 5 miles around the base, which for us, if anybody lives in any of these beautiful neighborhoods, I apologize, but it's Lakewood, Steilacoom, part of Puyallup, you know, and it's not the best parts of those respective neighborhoods. So they, and then they don't even take the highest priced house, they take the median of the houses, and they look at what rent is being charged in those areas, and usually rentals not the greatest, right? And then they land on the BAH because of that. Right? So it doesn't make a lot of sense because hardly anybody lives around 5 miles around the base, but that's how they do it. And then to add insult to injury, 5 years ago, they decided we got to cut costs somewhere, everybody. And originally when BAH was proposed, it was only to cover a portion of your housing costs, not 100%. And so we're going to get back to that equation. So that's why it dropped by $80 on 1st of January, is because that was the final cut to get it down to 95% of that median rent. All right, so the good news is they're done cutting for now. 95% of the median house 5 miles around McCord, JBLM. So that doesn't give you a whole lot to work with, right? The good news is it's not going to go any lower for you than it is right now, as long as you stay here, right? If you go somewhere and then come back, they'll recalculate new BAH. But you get grandfathered in every year. Any increase, you'll get an increase in your BAH. Any decrease won't affect you. Okay, so what we can do about it though is get involved in NGAW and NAUGUS, and we put forth a resolution that says BAH shouldn't be calculated this way. It should be calculated this way. And why are you cutting my BAH when housing costs and costs of living are going up everywhere? Inflation is just a thing. That's how economies work. So why are you cutting my BAH? This doesn't make sense, Congress. And we get lobbyists to do that for us, right? So as a commander, I wish I had a magic bullet and I could do something to make your BAH rate go up, but I don't. But childcare, now that's something different. Not really. So,
You got me.
No, but I actually had something awesome happen, which was Chad heard me talking about this in a meeting, and Chad goes, oh, why isn't everybody using this service? And they defray the cost of my childcare by hundreds of dollars every month, and I've been using it for years. And then Kirby piped up and said, oh yeah, that, as an 04, they paid for childcare for me too. So for childcare, there are no more CDCs being built on the McCord side, and if any are built in the near future, they will be built on the Lewis side, because Lewis is worse off than we are. But there is a organization, nonprofit called childcareaware.org, right? And it sounds too good to be true, but we have airmen who are getting paid right now from this organization And that is in my paper that I sent out, posted on Facebook. Childcareaware.org, they partnered with the DOD, and they will pay hundreds of dollars a month to subsidize your childcare at an approved childcare facility. And it's not hard to get your childcare facility approved, right? And then the kicker to all of this is sometimes it takes 6 months to get approved for this, but from the day you put in your application, 6 months later you get approved, they will send you a check for that 6 months of childcare. They will retroactively pay you for all that time you were waiting. So it's a pretty incredible deal. Please go look at it and see if that is going to help meet your childcare needs. If it doesn't, and you're still struggling, and I know you didn't ask this question because you were struggling, but it does impact us. It's a huge expense, $1,000 a month for childcare for some of us. If it's still impacting you, let me know, and we'll go from there. All right? Any questions about that? Yep.
Is there any options for CONUS COLA? I know some areas in the United States have that.
Again, it's one of those things that I have zero control over, right? I'm sure there might be, but it would take legislation, and it would take getting that into the NDAA. And the way we do that as guardsmen is we contact our congressmen and our congresswomen, and we use NGAW and NAUGUS to get that stuff changed in the NDAA. But a local commander, or even a wing commander, even a general officer has no control over any of that. We're just not political beasts until we're like a 4-star general on, the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So we can't be politically active other than through our professional organization channels. So potentially, but it'd be a long road to hoe. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Hard things are hard. Louis Petit, who did a tightrope walk from the Empire State Building to an adjacent building, or was the World Trade Center? Might have been the World Trade Center, to an adjacent building. One of his famous quotes is, "Impossible? Let's get started." Right? Because just because somebody tells you something's impossible doesn't mean we shouldn't try to get there. So let's try to get there. So if somebody wants to start the process, I'm a resolutions chair for NAUGUS for Washington State, so maybe we can get a resolution started for childcare, for COLA, or something like that. Okay, and this is the last question, I think. Yeah, Lieutenant Villanueva. Several new hires as well, and this is, I think he Villanueva. Several new hires as well as current WADS members have experienced frequent and significant lapses in pay or benefits after promotions and changes in status. While being financially prepared for the worst case scenario is each of our responsibilities, our members and their families deserve better. What is the ADS WADS leadership doing to engage with the 194th to ensure accountability for these issues? Depends on the issue. It seems like each issue is slightly different. Some people are being assessed from active duty, and active duty deletes their pay and all the information associated with that individual. So when you show up as a guardsman, it is not as easy as like, I'm here, I need to get paid, because if somebody came off the street, it'd be real easy. They just assess them. They then go into the record of this active duty person and they go, oh, well, you were here, but you were deleted because you separated. Oh, well, that's a problem. Now it's gonna take weeks in order to get this fixed. So part of it's with active duty that the problem is, and what we are actively doing is each session that we have, we're sending a checklist to, and we're saying, guys, whatever you do, when you go to pay, when you go to finance, make sure they do not check this box. You have to say, don't check that box. I will come over that counter if you check that box. So we're doing that for the people that we're assessing from active duty. For guardsmen who just like one day their pay just gets like stops. And it's like, why aren't I getting paid? Because that happens. We work directly with the 194th. Chief Lawson does not sleep until somebody gets paid. All right, and he is constantly calling the 194th finance to get that fixed. 194 sometimes can't fix it, and they have to go to the National Guard Bureau and get it fixed at the A1 level at National Guard Bureau, which is personnel, right? So a CMS case is open. What we were seeing happening at the Guard Bureau was CMS cases at middle management levels were being deleted. and the member just wasn't even notified of it. Sometimes they were notified of it, and they're like, you have no recourse. You actually do have recourse, because CMS cases cannot be deleted by any rank lower than a 06 or a GS 15. All right, so if your CMS case is deleted by anybody other than an 06 and a GS, you can see who deletes your CMS case. I need to know about that immediately, because I am supposed to call A1 Direct and let them know that your CMS case was deleted. Okay, so again, it's arming me with information so I can work on your behalf. Okay, there were 74 case management systems, CMS, with an unresolved duration of 45 plus days. So that's 45 days of people not getting paid. All right, and so Guard Bureau put that information out. They know that it's a problem, and they are working day and night to try to fix it. So it's not just people going, oh, well, people get paid when they get paid. No, we're actively working to fix this stuff. So pay is one of the top issues, and you've heard Colonel Bossman say it, but every commander should have this mantra, is making sure that people are safe in the organization and people are getting paid for the work that they do are the two top priorities of mine, right? You're getting compensation for the work that you do, and you feel safe. Otherwise, why would you come to work? You know, if you feel unsafe and you're not getting paid, that doesn't make sense. Let me know, and I'll fix it for you. I won't sleep until I get some sort of resolution on your case, unless I ate too much pizza. All right, so that's all the questions from Facebook. Does anybody have anything else? Is everybody happy? Okay. What about Igor? What do you think? What do you think about the unit in your first week?
Positive first impression, sir. The example being I needed to take emergency leave, and all I got was yeses. I requested the leave, and they said, all right, go take care of your needs. So it's it's a new experience. It's good.
That's a fantastic example. Thank you for bringing that up. So Igor had to take emergency leave. Nash was contacted. He wasn't the active first sergeant, but he didn't care. He jumped into action, worked on getting the 988 all filled out. I was contacted later on in the day, and they said, this is what we're doing for Igor. He's got to take immediate leave. And I said, do not hold him up for 1 second. I give verbal authorization for him to take leave. Let him get out the door. We'll work on the paperwork later. All right, so that's how we got to treat our people. Okay, we don't hold them up, especially in a time like that. We get them what they need, and we deal with the admin later. Okay, I give you authorization to do that. Now, don't take my words and pervert them, though, right? When there's a process and it's not an emergency, follow the process. But when it's an emergency and we're talking about our airmen and their welfare, we take quick action, all right? And we worry about the paperwork on the back end. Okay? Who else? Tyler, what do you think? What's good? What's bad?
Sir, I think that the opportunities here are incredible. I've worked a lot of different places. Previous law enforcement career never gave me the opportunity for leadership opportunities, advancement opportunities, just even the ability to go somewhere else and experience something. So that's been really positive for me. And it's all about perspective as well. I work with really great people, and the overall attitude is great.
Awesome. We got you on to WD school at some point here, right?
Yes, sir, March.
You and Coppinger are going to head out the door? Good. Going to be a great controller, I think. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right. And we put in Denton's name with a write-up on hopefully getting recognized and getting a coin from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. There's another good one. Jared Denton comes to work with a smile on his face, even when maybe on the inside he's not smiling so much, and he doesn't let that affect him. He comes to work and knocks it out of the park. So yeah, big fan of Jared Denton. He's not here to hear that. Are you? I can't. He was here. Oh, he steps out. He leaves early. Okay. Anybody else got anything for the good of the order? We've been here for so long, guys. I know. I'm gonna let you go here in 2 seconds. No? Graybeard, you got anything to say?
No, other than every TDY I go on, and have gone on, and you identify yourself as where you're from. It was WADS, now 225th. People know it. People know it. And you may have experienced that. It's a good place to work. And it's known throughout the Air Force and other services.
Awesome, thanks. Good words. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us on Facebook. Really appreciate it. This will now be on Facebook. If you didn't get enough, you can go back and watch it again. But thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for what you do. And we'll have another one of these in just a few weeks. We're going to do an on-call as well. And eventually I'm going to do an e-call. I would rather the smaller groups with the enlisted. So I'm looking forward to meeting with the seniors and the masters and the techs separate, and then maybe we'll do a big e-call. Colonel Humphrey's going to have an all-call with the SS and the ADS here very shortly, and we'll address some of the climate survey issues, so expect that in the near future. All right? Okay. Bigfoot!
Stop!